It's a wonderful Thursday in the Pacific Northwest. I see it's top of the hour. We'll wait for a small smidge more to see our other attendees joining. It's wonderful to look at the list of attendees and see names from people all over our state. Excited for day 3 of Google. Catherine, can't wait to see what we're learning about today.
There you go. Is my screen share not showing the new slide? Just want to make sure.
It is LMS 101 Part 3.
Okay, there you go. Sorry.
Yeah.
It looked like it was changing on my end, so I wanted to double check.
No worries. Yeah. So as we get started today for day 3, we want to remember that honoring indigenous land is one of the first principles of anti-racist education. And we as educators want to serve every learner. That means everyone. And I hope that today you're mindful of the people around you and the wonderful, beautiful perspectives that they all bring. And that we take a moment to think about the land that's been here for a long, long time and the people who have been inhabiting it and are still here, and be mindful of the treaties that are around. And also, I was looking online and I noticed that even at Washington State, we have resources, and I believe it's called Since Time Immemorial in our curriculum that's available for all grade levels. So I don't know what you've been doing to be mindful, but I appreciate the call out for me to be mindful of the land that we're on. Also today, just minding that we have a crew from all over the state. In all 9 ESDs, we have representatives who are helping on this project to bring to you some of the nuts and bolts for not only Google, but other LMS systems. Today, we have on the background helping with Q&A, we've got Andrew, we've got Larry, we've got Christina, we've got Amy, and we have 2 American Sign Language interpreters today. Thank you so much. And we have Lindsay on closed captioning. On the slide deck, which you will get later, remember that you can click on the link for any of our names to connect with us via email. We're happy to help out in any way possible. Also, a few other notes real quickly as we start. You may have noticed this is day 3. We still have your audio and video automatically muted so that it's not too chaotic and we can have the bandwidth that we need for today. Also note that your chat window, you can't chat like usual, but you can get messages from us as we're giving out links like today. We'll give the link to the slide deck so you have all of the resources and you can go through the slide deck at your own leisure. I also noticed that there's some links in there that we didn't get to mention yesterday that you might want to investigate on your own. And speaking of which, we also have an on-demand version of this course that you can do for additional clock hours. If you've signed in today via Zoom, you've automatically signed in to get your clock hours. You can get an additional up to 6 clock hours by doing the on-demand version of this course, which might be for many of us more like, I can do this at my own time and revisit and really adventure into it. With 60 minutes live like this, we can only get too much or so much done. So we want to say thank you so much for the time. And Catherine, so what are we doing today?
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun. We are going to look at the assessment and communication features in Google Classroom. And it's going to be a nice overview of the features, although we can't give you every detail of how you should be setting up your grading program because that's very district specific and personal. But we're going to show you what the possibilities are. And we're going to talk about those in a couple of segments: quizzes and assessment, gradebook, and record keeping. And then we'll talk a little bit about student and parent communication and how you might manage that potentially with your Google Classroom. So we're going to have a poll just like we did yesterday. And Andrew, take it away.
Sounds good. So once again, just like yesterday, we're going to do another poll. This time it's for day 3. And just like yesterday, we're looking at what you explored last night in your exploration with adding content and organizing structure. And then the second question, what are you most excited to learn today? Quizzes and assessment, the gradebook, student and parent-family communications. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to launch the poll. Please reply to the poll that pops up on your screen. And we'll see what you're most interested to learn today, which helps us frame our outcomes. I really do love using the Zoom polls with how fast we gather information. Yesterday, my record was 300 in about 10 seconds. Today, we're at 320 seconds.
Andrew, it's fun to see how many people were getting a chance last night to explore some more. We really appreciate that.
Me too. So it looks like last night, a majority of our folks have dabbled a little, and most of them say from yesterday's exploration, they're getting there, which is our number 1 so far. Today, they're most excited to learn about quizzes and assessments, as well as student and parent-family communications. And student and parent-family has edged out the top so far. So I'll end the poll in about 5 seconds to capture your response. And then share with everyone just so you can see. There you go. Okay. Catherine and Jeff, back to you.
It's interesting, Andrew and Catherine, as I looked at that poll and the family and communication part, which came up first place or was most important, as I think about our work today, and we're going to get into assessment, we're going to get into grading. The whole purpose of all of these is because we want to be mindful of our learners and take care of our students. So as we do that, just a reminder real quickly about framing our thinking as we're using these tools. Remember, we want to take care of the learner, and there are a lot of structures that help us to be guided along the way to do what's best for learners. So calling out again the universal design for learning, social emotional learning supports, and very important for our world today, culturally responsive teaching, realizing that we all have a wealth of knowledge and experiences and perspectives that are valued and important for the rest of us to know and learn.
Thank you, Jeff. I want to just mention too that I want to acknowledge your trauma. You know, we're asked to be trauma informed in our teaching, but there's not a lot of talk about the trauma that teachers are going through right now. And I just want to say that we are all feeling it. And we understand that. Your panelists, we just want to tell you, we get it. You're being asked to learn a lot of new stuff in a really short time. And these particular classes are very compressed. And you know, we want you to know that we don't expect you to have it mastered by the end of these 3 days. By no means is that what we're hoping for. We want you to see the possibilities and start getting an idea of how you can set things up, have some practical ideas. But we want you to go easy on yourself as much as possible, and make use of the other modes of instruction that are available. The class that we have in that is on demand, I think will also be a good option for several of you who have taken this class and just still want a little bit more support. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because I think we're all feeling just a little bit of stress these days.
Breathe and take care of yourself, please.
Keep breathing. Keep breathing. On that note, I want to talk a little bit about flexible thinking in terms of what we're doing today. I'm going to show you some tools that are available in Google Apps for you to use. Some of you may be aware of them. Some of you maybe have never seen them before. I hope that you get excited to explore them on your own, but I have to remind you that we are not going deeply into those tools today. So if you get excited about that tool and you want to explore it, that's great, but we won't be probably answering a ton of questions about those specific tools. I will give you a peek at what students see, but I want to emphasize that it's not a feature of Google Classroom to have a student view. There is no button you can push and say, oh, here's what a student is seeing. And personally, I feel like they need to add that. I will remind you about that little question mark in the bottom left corner of your screens when you're in a Google app, that you can give them some feedback that you really need that, because I click that thing regularly and I'm sure they're sick of me, but I think they're going to probably hear us soon. But I have a way as an administrator to show you a little bit of what a student will see, just so you can get an idea. So just keep in mind that don't worry if you can't figure out how to do that, because you probably can't. I'll be showing you how to create assignments. We kind of went over this yesterday, and I'm going to hop over into my tool here. So give me just a second.
Catherine, while you're opening that tool, I know some districts have been creative with the Google Classroom of not seeing the student version. They've created a fake student, and they even give it a name for their district, like fake student at mycoolschooldistrict.org. And they add that student to their classes, and they all have the login credentials from another device to see what it looks like. There are some creative ways you can get around it. But yes, we are asking Google, as users, please, can you give us a student view? But remember, you have a lot of great resources and inventions in your district. So talk with your crew and see what you can come up with for good solutions for you.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions about ways that districts could do that, but if I mention them, people will go to their IT staff and say, Catherine said that you could do this, and then I will get emails that I don't want to get. Because they have some good reasons for not doing some of those things, and I understand. But there are some possibilities. So just to know that that knowledge is power for you.
You're saying be collaborative and
Yeah.
sensitive, that we all have our perspectives and we need to work together.
Exactly. This is not my first go around with that that particular issue. So I'm over here as a teacher in my Google Classroom, and you'll notice that the margins of my browser are black. You're going to see some color changes because I told you previously that I am big on color coding. If you cannot see the difference in the colors, that's okay. There are other ways to tell where you're at, but for me, that's going to be a cue for what browser I'm in, because I'm going to show you some student perspective and some teacher perspective. I'm in my Google Classroom home environment here with if I hit my little house, this is where I get to. I'm going to choose my current classroom that I'm going to be showing you, and I'm back here in my stream. So you can see that some things have been added. I have a little bit of an upcoming to-do list here on the side that shows what's coming up and when the due dates are. I can pop over into my Classwork tab, which is where I'm going to create. And you can see I've added a few things here from since yesterday. So I'm going to create an assignment just to go over that really quickly again. I have all my different options here, and we looked at the assignment and the question yesterday. We're going to go into the quiz assignment today. We can reuse, or we can just post something that is for students to use, or we can create an organizational topic right here. So I'm going to create an assignment. And again, this is something that we did yesterday, nothing new. I'm just going into it again. We can call this assignment whatever we want. Give some instructions. Please give better instructions than I am giving, because these are very minimal. That's not very good instructional. That's not really good there. I'm going to create a Google Doc to add to this. And when I create, it pops me into a new tab. Google, if you're kind of new to Google, Google loves to open new tabs in your browser. So it will be good for you to get comfortable with switching back and forth between tabs. And it wants me to edit my document and name it. Here is an assignment. It's going to automatically name it for me, that same line, if I click up there. And now I have my assignment for my students. I can close this. It's saved. It'll figure out the title. I have to make my very important decision. Do I want them to view it? Do I want them to edit it? Do I want to make a copy for each student? I'm going to choose copy for each student. Check my points. Give it a due date. Add a topic. I'm not adding a rubric to this particular one. I'm going to assign that right away. Now, while that is doing its thing, I'm going to show you another browser. And I'm just dragging this in, so I'm trying not to make you seasick, and I hope it's not weird visually. So this is my student, Janice Joplin, and you can see I just got this little heads up notification that says the stream was updated. I can click show or I can click reload in the browser to see the new assignment. So I am now Janice, my student Janice. This is what a student is seeing. So in her stream, I posted a new assignment. There's a bunch of other stuff that I posted. If I go over to Classwork, it looks a little bit different than what you were seeing with the teacher view. Let's see what kind of work Janice has to do today. She has a lot of stuff. Well, here's a map assignment. I'm gonna look at this really quickly. And when I click on the heading, it drops down and kind of unfolds the rest of the assignment. It tells her her instructions, and then it says view assignment. Now she could click right here and open up the attachment, but if she wants to see the thing in its entirety, she's going to click view assignment, and that opens it in a new page. So my student will have the instructions I added, the attachment or attachments, because I can usually put more than one in there, and has a place to say, you have done some work, add or create. Now, if I said, open this map and use this to respond, they know they need to do that. Again, there's a little bit of communication and setting up of expectations with your students. But if my instructions were just create a Google Doc and write a summary of the chapter we read yesterday, they could add or create from here. And it looks pretty similar to the options I have as a teacher. There also is a button called Mark as Done, and I want to make a point about this. There is a workflow for your students that differs depending on what kind of assignment they give. If I look at an assignment with a Google Doc and they're asked to type in the doc that I have attached, there's a turn in button that will show up in that Google Doc for them. And it will turn it in, and they can go back to Google Classroom and see that they've done that. For something like this, I don't have a turn in button. So you'll see when I open this attachment, it's just a Google map. And if you're not familiar with Google My Maps, this is a great tool. Again, I can't go into a lot of detail, but it's included in your Google account. And it looks just like the Google Maps you're used to, except that you can add layers, place marks, do all kinds of cool things across all kinds of curriculum areas incorporating these maps. And it's a pretty fun tool. So this is a map that I had made that shows some little landmarks in Vancouver that I like. And you can see that there are some kind of central place marks, and then there are some other ones added. And if I look at this one, I can see another student added this. He put his name in here. There's no way for me to know who added this if they don't put their name in there. So I already know as a teacher that my instructions were probably not adequate, because if I don't say, please add your favorite places to this map, assuming they know how to do that already, which I would have covered previously. If I don't say, put your name in the place mark, I'm not going to know who did it. She can mark it as done, and it will tell me she turned it in, but I won't be able to see which thing she added. So that's just something to think about as you're branching out into different assignment types. I'm going to have Janice mark this as done. And it's going to give me the question, did you want to attach something? Your teacher will just see it's done. In this case, I would go to the map and look for the place mark that says Janice, which she actually shirked her duties and didn't do. Going to mark it as done. She can go back to Google Classroom, and her stream has adjusted, and Classwork is still here. I still have all of my other stuff to do. So that's just a brief look at the student view. I have another student I can show you. Here's Jimmy. He did some different stuff. If he opens an assignment, this is one that has a rubric, right? He could open his attachment. This is one where I attached a Google Doc, and this is what the student sees when a Google Doc is attached. They don't just have add or create. They have the document link, their copy, like the one that I would put on their desk if I was physically there, and they have a turn in button. So he can open this up and he can add some stuff. I don't know, right? You know, he could put a picture in there. There's different levels of challenge I could include. When he's ready to go, he can click turn in. It confirms that he wants to add this attachment, and he turns it in.
Now, Catherine, what if I'm a student and I turned it in and, you know, I do the thing where my brain keeps thinking about it later and I'm like, oh, I really forgot that one point to make, or I made a typo, or I should have said it this way. Even though it's turned in, do we as students have access still to the, like right here, the Jimi Hendrix assignment? And can we make changes, or how does that work?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we all want to work towards mastery. So this can be a really useful thing. A student can always think better of it, unsubmit, and it reminds them, don't forget to resubmit once you've changed it. They can unsubmit and it'll go through its little process. And now I have the same thing. I have a turn in. I can go back into my document and you can see the nonsense that I added is still there, but maybe I'm going to fix that because that didn't make any sense. If I could get my keyboard to work, I would be changing that, but now it's decided to be weird for me. Okay, so let's say I typed something different there. And it's, oh, actually I see what the problem is. This is something that you'll run into. Real world here, here's your real world. Sometimes right after they've submitted it, they get an unsubmit button, but they haven't really unsubmitted it yet. So Google needs to think about it for a minute. And it might take a minute for this to go away and for them to get their turn in button back. Normally I'd, you know, wait and demonstrate that for you, but I might have to ask you to trust me today because we have a limited amount of time. But yes, he can unsubmit, he can re-edit the same document, and he can turn it in again.
It was actually really good to see, though, that once it's turned in, it looks like it's, in a sense, locked so that I can't, as a student, make a bunch of changes right after it without unsubmitting it. Did I see that right? So that, like, it's kind of like in the teacher's hands, so to speak, so that now I just have to wait and either unsubmit and then make the changes. Is that kind of what the feel is?
Yeah, they have to go through a specific process to unsubmit. It just makes them push that button, so they can't just, oh, I'm going to just go back into this document and start changing things when maybe my teacher has already looked at it.
Yeah.
That way I can tell. So I'm back here as a teacher, and let's say I want to go to my to review list, and I'm only going to pick the one classroom. And this gives me a little heads up display of what's assigned, what's been turned in, what's been graded. So I have some stuff that's been assigned. Let's see, was that assignment 2, assignment 1, turned in here. So this means I have something to grade in this pile. And if I go here, this gives me a little heads up of what that would look like and what my students have been doing. We're going to come back into this in a little more detail in a second, because I want to look at the quizzes and assessments first, and then we'll come back and talk about how you work with the gradebook. So when we look at the quizzes, and I'm going to go back into the Classwork tab, I'm going to hit create. And I mean, when I say create a quiz, I mean create a quiz assignment. And you can see I have my quizzes sorted out into a topic, or at least one of them is here. Excuse me. And since I've already assigned this and it has a due date, I can see my instructions, the form, and who I've assigned it to, or how many students it was assigned to. Now, when we do this quiz tool, this uses the Google Forms tool. And I'll have my colleagues at some point paste in a list or a link that gives you a little bit more help on how to work with forms, because this is not a forms class and we can't go into great detail about it. But there will be some interesting things that you'll see here if you are not used to working with forms or if you haven't done that before. So I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to create a new quiz assignment.
Oh, it looked like it just made a new Google form right there.
That's what it
I'll
did.
go blank quiz, Google Forms.
So a quiz assignment attaches a blank form automatically to your assignment. And there are a few things to know about this workflow. I have to give it a title, just like normal. I should give them some instructions, especially if it's an assessment. I should probably be pretty specific, right? Not like that, something better. And then I can add or create other attachments, but if I do, I'm going to lose this option down here. And that option down there is grade importing, which means that the answers from my quiz will be imported into the gradebook in Google Classroom. So if you're wanting to track your grades in Google Classroom, you're going to want to attach a quiz just by itself, no other attachments. And I found that out the hard way fairly recently. So hope you can benefit from my experience. I have another option here down in my quiz area, and that is locked mode on Chromebooks. It knows I want to know what that means, so it gives me this little information bubble to hover over. And it says respondents will not be able to open tabs or other applications while taking this quiz. So if you are in a district where students have Chromebooks as their device, and you would like to make it a little harder for them to go look at other websites while they are taking a quiz, you can use that. My commentary on that would be, number one, think about why you want them to not go look at other websites. I think just thinking about your motivations for that. And number two, understand that most of your students have more than one device available, and even if their Chromebook is locked down, they can still go look at other stuff.
Never. I can't imagine any of us would do the same thing.
I know, right? So it's an option. It may be something that your district policy asks for you to use. It may be something that you like to use. That's up to you. I just ask people to be mindful when they impose restrictions on the way students are interacting with a tool. That is as close as I'm going to get to a soapbox today, I hope. So I have a blank quiz, but it's really blank. I've got nothing in here. I have to click on this as a teacher. Again, we get our new tab, and here's my blank quiz, and it is literally titled blank quiz. So first thing I'm going to do is change that. Quiz 3. I think that's what I named this assignment. I have the option to describe the form, which would be another kind of last opportunity for me to give students some direction on how to do this if I wanted to. And when I click up here, I can name the quiz itself, Quiz 3.
Catherine, as you're making the quiz right now and I see questions coming in, the reality is students who are using tools effectively today have the whole internet at their disposal, at their fingertips.
Mhm.
It really begs a question for us to think about, what is this assessment really measuring? And how am I using this as an assessment? I know for many of us, we get stressed right now. We're like, I got to make a quiz. I got to do my grades. It's a good time for us to pause and to think about, what should assessments really be measuring, and how do I make a quality assessment? To make an assessment like I had in the 80s, where there was no internet that we were getting on, that's a different kind of test or an assessment of knowledge. So just asking that question today, be mindful when you're making your assessments. How is it that you're really going to ask questions of students, and how are you going to get to know that? That's beyond the scope of our LMS 101 course today, but it's a great time to just think they do have a lot of tools. And if we're thinking about it, they probably have some smartphone handy or another device. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, for me, the phrase I keep in my head is, if you can Google the answer in 10 seconds, how deep of learning are we assessing? But that's just me. So let's say I do want a really quick check-in formative assessment, something that I want to look at that requires multiple choice. That's a thing that is easy to do in here. Google can grade it for me. So I'm going to select a multiple choice question to demonstrate. How are you doing? Okay. Great.
That's a hard one to Google. How are you doing? So you're talking about authentic
Yeah,
assessments.
high quality. What can I say?
You know, it's something we could measure.
It is social emotional learning. And actually, there are a lot of teachers who are putting social emotional learning check-ins into their daily interactions with students. And I mean, of course, you have to think about how you would respond to some of these answers, but this is just an example. So I have a multiple choice question here. I could also add other types, a linear scale. On a scale from 1 to 5, how are you doing? I could have them do a short answer or a paragraph. I have a lot of options here. Again, not a forms class, but if you're looking at this and you're excited to see the possibilities of this, I am very happy that you are, because I love teaching forms. And I feel like we will probably hit some of these tools in more depth in our 201 series. And we're all pretty excited to figure out how those are going to go. So stay tuned on that. So here's my multiple choice question. I have, if you've used forms before, this might look familiar, but when I make a form a quiz, I have to actually tell it what the right answer is. So I have to click answer key, and then I have to decide which is the right answer. I guess that's the average answer these days. I have to give it a point or 5 points. I have to give it a point value. I also have the option to add answer feedback. So in this scenario, I've designated great and bad as wrong answers. Probably not very social, emotional aware. But what would I say to a student who got the wrong answer? Do I want them to have some immediate feedback? In this case, I don't know what I would say there, but if you were doing some kind of an adaptive quiz, for instance, if this was a history question and they got it wrong, you could add not only verbal or text feedback here. I could go find a YouTube video about the topic and say, hey, watch this and then try again, you know, give them another chance at it. So if you're feeling meh, maybe I want you to watch a YouTube video about puppies, and that could be my feedback for you getting the answer wrong. You could also add feedback for correct answers. So that's kind of an interesting, a whole nother discussion there. So I've added
Catherine?
oh yeah, go ahead.
You know, I'm wondering, when you did your answer key, is there a way to select more than one right answer? Is that an option?
Not for a multiple choice question form. If I have chosen the checkbox form, I can check more than one. However, something I have personally observed is that it considers it to be and, not or. So if I select 2 checkboxes as correct answers, and you select one of those correct ones but not both, you will get it wrong. So I don't personally find that terribly useful as an assessment tool, but if you want to give them more than one right answer and they don't have to get them all right, then it's a little problematic. So I've added my correct answer. I'm going to hit done. I'm going to make this question required because I don't want them to skip it, and they will. A lot of the time people will skip non-required questions on web forms. We've all run into those on the internet ourselves. And so I think I have what I need here. I think I have my quiz complete. So I'm going to switch over to Classwork. And it still says blank quiz. It'll fix itself later. I can do my usual choices here. How many points is this worth? Right, maybe 100 is a bit much for one question. I could choose a due date. I can choose a topic. And I can assign. Excuse me. All right, so there is my quiz. You need to make sure that you go into the quiz and set that answer key properly, or your quiz will not be very useful. So there are those extra steps when you do a quiz. Now, I'm going to bring in a student view again, really quickly. Again, not a feature that you have, just a little something special that I like to help with. And I have refreshed my stream and updated, and I can see that Janice can see quiz 3. Let's see how this worked. Okay, now I'm having a problem, and I will tell you what this is. Most of you will not run into this. If you are in a district where your students have the same domain you do, and that means your email address after the @ sign, if that's the same as what students have, you shouldn't run into this problem. If your students are like at students.yourdistrict.org and you are at yourdistrict.org, you could run into this problem. And there is a way to fix it in forms. So I always like to give that caveat because I do know there are districts that have that issue. I'm going to look at a different one here. Let's see if we have that same problem with our puppy quiz. So this is a much more fun quiz. This one involves puppies. Janice can view that. Go into the form. And here's a form. So in this case, she's able to see the form. She has to decide how cute the puppies are. Again, these are unfair questions. You should not ask students things like this. And she can submit her answers. I have options in my form to decide if she gets to view her score or not. You can turn all of that on and off. So she's getting some really immediate feedback here. She can mark this as done to alert me as the teacher that she's done it. And as the teacher, when I am in a Google form, I can see the results of my forms right there in the form I created or in a spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you briefly what that looks like. Again, forms class is a different class. I'm going to go into my puppy cuteness. I'm going to hit the edit button. And I see I have one response. And I can get a little summary of how the whole class did. So far, we're at 100% accuracy. And then I can see who did it. When I use this quiz tool, it will automatically collect email addresses for the students so that I can see who answered what way. So I guess the thing that I want you to take away from this, if you are new to Google Forms, you're going to have a million questions. And I think that's fine. And I'm so sorry that we cannot answer all 1 million of them today in the time we have left. But there is a workflow that you will need to follow. You will get into a habit. I will tell you that it is not a sharp learning curve. You can do this, but you're going to need to be very focused on making sure you've done all of the steps. Jeff, did you have anything else to add about forms?
Yeah, I'm trying to go like 101. I'm taking time to synthesize
Mhm.
So Google Forms is something that is available in a classroom and outside a classroom. I know that I've had to use Google Forms. Matter of fact, in my reflections last night, I used Google Forms. But Google in the classroom setting has an option to make them a gradable or a point attachment system to it. So they can count as a point and then get assimilated immediately into the Google Classroom gradebook. I also heard that there's a lot of cool, fun, wonderful things I could learn with Google Forms, and that this class isn't about all of that. And so maybe later in some of our other sessions that we'll offer, or maybe investigating on my own or with my colleagues, I could really dig into all of the cool, fun things that Google Forms can do. I'm seeing lots of questions in the Q&A, and thank you, team, for helping to answer a lot of those questions. But again, this is to highlight Google Forms is what Google uses for the quizzes and assessments. There are lots of other ways that you can assess, but for a quick one, you're trying to get some feedback, and I really appreciate Catherine calling it out. Many of our teachers are using this as a social emotional learning measurement. Like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Like what we did even in our Zoom poll this morning, just checking in, like, we're just curious, where are you at? Did you get time? Are you working on this? It gives information for us. And so as you're learning about Google Forms and how they work, know that that's integrated in Google Classroom. It's the Google Forms stuff.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jeff. And I know, see, while I'm presenting, I'm not looking at the Q&A because I think it would probably distract me to oblivion. But we want you to know that there are a lot of you in this webinar, and we are struggling. You know, we try to answer as many questions as we can. So if we don't get to yours, it's not because we thought it was a bad question or because we don't want to answer it. It's just we might not be able to get to it today. But you do have other avenues for getting those questions answered that we kind of discuss when we get to the resources part. So my hope is that whetted your appetite for learning about forms. If you are already using a third-party tool like, I don't know, Socrative, I always think I'm pronouncing that wrong, or Kahoot or something else to do kind of quiz type stuff, it's okay. You can still use all of those as well. You can always post a link to any type of external tool into your Google Classroom. And some of those tools even have direct integration with Google Classroom, which means that they work a little more closely with Google Classroom in some different ways. And the resources, I think that was yesterday that we had the Works with Google link that we shared.
Yes.
Yeah, that will give you an idea of how some of those might work. So we have a limited amount of time here, so I'm going to dive back into gradebook, excuse me, and record keeping. And I want to, remind you that we are just demonstrating the features here. We're giving you the fullness of the options that we can see and just demonstrating what can be done. But we cannot tell you every permutation, every option of this. You need to follow your district guidelines, and there probably will be some for you as to how you should set up your gradebook and how all of this will work. So I'm going to go back into my Google Classroom teacher view, and I'm going to look at, let's see, which assignment do I want to look at? I have a lot of stuff going on here. I think I'm going to do my math Jamboard assignment. And in this one, I'm using a Google tool called Jamboard, which is an online virtual whiteboard. And I can't tell you how many questions I personally have received. Jeff, I don't know about you in your region, but I've been getting a lot of questions about how do I do a whiteboard with virtual since March. I've had that question a lot. This is one of the easy ways to do it. If you have not seen it, it's available in your Google Apps. If you cannot find it, you may want to ask IT to turn it on because it is still kind of a new idea for some of our districts and they haven't tried it, but it's pretty simple. It's literally just a whiteboard, and I created an assignment with this tool. So if I click on that assignment I created, you're going to see that. And it's just a math problem that I scribbled on here. I didn't do a very good job of it. The idea here is that students are going to be able to choose a way to write and correct that problem that I wrote for them. So I have created the assignment. I have attached this as an attachment from my Google Drive, and now my students can do it. So I'm going to take a look at how this looks for one of my students as well. Here's Janice and her, whoops. And I'm
Catherine, I
having,
saw a teacher this week create a Jamboard. And remember in that settings that you said, I think it was on our first day, about should I let students edit it? They let all of the students edit the Jamboard, and the directions were, hey, go ahead and take one of the slides or create a new slide in the Jamboard, a new page, and make it your own, kind of like the wall, like a Facebook page or whatever you want to call it. But that they would be able to put their own picture and do their own doodles and to share a little bit. This is our class. This is our classroom wall. Like, here's your little space. So you get to create what you want to. And it was a cool way to get some of that interaction. How do I get to know you and make some connections as learners?
it's fun. It's a really wide open, flexible tool. And especially if you have students who are using any kind of a touchscreen device, a Chromebook that can use a stylus or an iPad, it's extra fun because it's easier to draw, but it's possible to use it with a trackpad or a mouse too. Actually, that just jumping in, because you mentioned that having them all edit the same thing. I added a material here for, this is a map that you can go and find the native land that you're on. You can enter your location and it will tell you which tribe has the land that you're on. And I was thinking I could use this to add a map assignment, have students look this information up, and then have them all edit the same Google map like we were doing for that cool places in the Couve map. And then they could all edit that same thing in a similar way. So I digressed. Let me go back to the math Jamboard. So here's our student's view of that Jamboard. So she can go in here. Now, Janice already did this work. So let's go see what she did. I actually made a different copy of the Jamboard. I chose the option that said make a copy for each student, because in this case, I wanted their personal knowledge about math. Janice could use some reteaching from the looks of things, not doing great. 2 + 2 is not 22. So as the teacher, I can go back here and I'm going to look at what she did. I have 2 people who turned it in. Jimmy and Janice both turned it in. If I have a lot of students here, I can sort this by all, like that means everybody it was assigned to. Or I can just say who has turned it in, and we're going to just filter them to the top so I can start dealing with this stack of papers that I have to grade. So let's go see how Jimmy did. I can click and see what he did. 2 + 2 equals, I don't know, 14. Not great. Okay. let me give him some feedback on this. I can either put a 0 here or a 1, or I can not put anything there, and I can say, can you please try again? Right. Now that's a private comment just to Jimmy. This is not going to the whole class and embarrassing him and making him sad. It's just his feedback to know that he needs to pop back in. And here is where your rapport with your students, setting your expectations, becomes very important. You need to make sure they know that they have a chance to turn something in more than once, that they may receive feedback from you in a certain way, and maybe the comments are the way you choose to do that, or maybe you use email, maybe you use a different tool. But you need to set up that expectation that if I feel like you could do better on an assignment, I might ask you to do it again. And I can return it to him, and he'll get a notification and see that he didn't get a grade, or that he got a 0 or a 5 or whatever. And then we can keep that conversation going. It kind of cues him to know that we're having a conversation about that assignment. One thing to keep in mind, and we checked on these yesterday, the settings for notifications, our students have those as well. So if I go, and I'll show you what it looks like to Jimmy now. I'm going to reload his stream.
So you're on Jimmy's page, and I'm curious, Catherine, you gave a private comment to Jimmy. Is that private and he knows it's private, or would the student know or not that it's just a comment? Like, is this something everybody else has seen? Like, how would they know, or do you know about that?
It is labeled as a private comment, but you
Phew.
might need to have that conversation with your students ahead of time to reassure them. I think that's definitely something to continue clarifying the whole time you use these tools. What's private conversation and what can the whole class see? Because we have all been in situations where maybe we broadcast something a little wider than we wanted to. So it's good to know. So here's my classwork. It looks like he's still having problems updating here, but it would actually say that he had turned it in here. I'm not going to trust this student anymore because I think I'm having problems with my Google. Don't worry about this because I think it's all me. And you know, reality intrudes and we just have to keep going. But he would get a notification and see the comment that I had left and be able to have another conversation with me. Maybe I would give a more useful comment like, how can I help you understand? Would you like, here's a video you can watch to review this material. You know, you've got to really think about the level of communication you're giving. But you can see that in my teacher format here, it did update and it says that he turned it in. I gave him a comment. I didn't give him a grade. I still have Janice's here. If I click on hers, I can go see what she did. I can give her a grade, I can add a comment and return. And I want to be clear that return in this case just means that I gave it back to them. I handed them their paper back with a comment written on it. It does not mean that the transaction is over forever. And that's the conversation you need to keep having with your students. So I'm going to go ahead and actually give them both a grade here just so we can take a look at something. And
Are you saying Jimmy outperformed Janice? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, I know it's probably pretty unfair of me. I should check my equity, but for the moment, I'm just putting numbers in. I'm going to, you see when I added a number, it says draft because I haven't hit the return button yet. And so I can hit return to all students. I've selected all students. I'm returning them all. And they're like, well, this one didn't even submit hers. It's fine. Don't worry about it. In this case, I'm just going to return it. All right. And maybe that will force the other notification through. But I'm going to go back here into my main teacher place, my home base, and I'm going to go to grades. So now, remember we looked here before and it was kind of blank. Now I have something that kind of looks like a grade book, right? So I have all of my assignments that I have added. I have the one that I have managed to grade, and I have the class average for each one of those assignments. It's a pretty simple gradebook system. If you've used electronic gradebooks before, you've probably seen a lot of different options. This one just does not get that intense. And we mentioned, I think yesterday, that this is, we think of this sometimes as the, like my paper grade book that I used to write the grades in, and then I would transfer to Skyward. These grades can be, oops, sorry, wrong button. These grades can be added into Skyward manually. And there are some ways to export, but they're not within the scope of what we're talking about now. Some of your districts will have an integration set up with your student information system. So Classroom may talk to Skyward. That is a very, very new feature. I actually don't even know if it's out of beta yet. Maybe one of my other Google peeps knows. Or maybe they have it working with PowerSchool or another student system that your district uses, but it is not doing that by default. So be aware that there is another step there. Are there any questions coming up that I can address really quickly before we go on to communication? All right. I will move on then. So again, we know that that's not an in-depth look at a grade book of any sort, but it is a very simple grade book in this tool. And you can get started just by adding some assignments and seeing what it looks like when you grade some things. So we're going to talk a little bit about the student and parent communication. We've kind of covered the idea of student view in Google. There isn't one. We wish there was one. We encourage you to click the question mark and add feedback. But there are some workarounds for that. Your district may have something set up. One of the things that I actually encourage people to do is to trade enrollments with your colleagues. So if Jeff and I are teaching in the same grade level, maybe he joins my class as a student, because remember, as a teacher, you can still join another person's class. He joins my class, I join his class. At least I get an idea of how it's looking. If you have access to a student-only account to use that is a fake student, that's a great way to do it. But one of the things you can do is just talk to your students. Honestly, I actually watched this happening with my own personal fourth grader last year. They would say, I don't see that. I don't see that. I see this. It looks like this. And she would go, oh, okay. And my student had a great teacher. And so they were able on the fly to say, okay, well, I'll change it. You know, they kept a communication going. And the kids are pretty forgiving about that, believe it or not. So there's no student view, but you can click that question mark and ask for one. Communicating with students, you have a couple of options in Classroom. You can use the tools that are built in. If I go to my People tab, I can always email a student with the 3 dots, okay? Think about whether your students have email as part of their habitual workflow. Have you set up an expectation that they check their email? How many times per day do you expect them to check their email? Is a good thing to think about. You can also use announcements on your stream here. Share something with your class. Don't forget, whatever. And I can post that. It'll come up in their streams. Any notifications they have enabled will come through, but remember, they can always turn some of those off. So you have, this again is one of those very personal things that you have to set up for yourself. And last but not least, parent access is really limited in Google Classroom. You'll notice in the People tab, I have an option that says Invite Guardians. You may or may not have that. Your district may actually pre-populate parent email addresses into these. If they're setting up rosters and adding students for you, it's likely they've done that. But you may have to add them yourself. And all I have to do is click there and add Jimmy's parents' email or guardian's email. What does that do? It does not permit the parents or guardians to see inside your classroom. What it does is it gives them an option to get an email every week. And I'm in my class settings. I have to make sure that Guardian Summaries button is on. And they actually have an example here, and it tells us all about what they do, what they would get. So this is what a parent would get. And it's a weekly summary that goes out about their student. It says, here's what they're missing from last week. Here's what's due next week. And here are some things that were assigned in their various classes. Okay.
So this isn't like the private message stuff that is between the student and the teacher. This is the level of, these are the assignments and their status as being turned in, not complete, what's coming up, to give a feel for, yeah, is my learner, my child working or not working, and kind of what's coming along. It's kind of like the forecast.
Very simple, very basic, gives your parents an idea of what's being assigned and an idea of whether their student has missed a lot of that stuff. So, sorry, I'm having problems with my share there. There we go. So it's pretty simple, but you can use that as kind of the foundation of your communication with parents, but you may not want it to be all of your communication with parents. So we are getting pretty close to the end here. So if you have a moment to complete the reflection that is linked, and I believe they're going to put that in the chat for us.
And just as a side note, while you're pausing there, I am creating a document with all the links from the chat that will be emailed to this group as soon as I can today.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Christina. And remember again that you are free to, if you want to try it, you can use your phone, most likely your phone if you turn your app on for the camera and hold it up to that QR code. Most likely your phone will take you right to the website, and you can do and it is a Google form. And Catherine, we did remember to turn it on, hints about Google Forms for asking people anywhere and everywhere. There is settings that allow people outside of your own school domain. So anybody everywhere hopefully can take this reflection today.
You want me to leave that up for just a minute?
Yeah, one more second. And then Catherine, I want to make a note that there were some things that you kept seeing, or I kept seeing the last few days about the privileges to view a file. Mm-hmm. That sometimes you said it could be available to everybody or anyone can see it with the link. It makes me think about that parent communication piece. There might be sometimes, and I know what I've seen it with different teachers and myself included, we might post something on our homepage that parents you regularly go to, or our school homepage. And if you do take a file that's within a classroom and make it visible to anybody with a link, then that could be visible via a link on your homepage or your school page as well. So it might be like, hey, you want people to know what the big assignment looks like. You could have parents be able to view that as well, if that's something you want to do. But in general, things are closed in the classroom for you and your students, you and your learners, and parents only get to see that overview of what was happening.
Absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. There are definitely some things to learn about file sharing in Google if you're new to the Google world, and I would encourage you to get more information about that if you're just starting out. So this is the end of our Google series, and we hope that you're able to continue connecting with your colleagues around how you could use this LMS with your students. And please keep looking at the AESD website for future offerings. We want to keep supporting you, and hopefully we will see you all again soon.
Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate you tremendously. Remember, you're going to make awesome stuff happen. Breathe, and remember that it's all up to us, and we've got this.